Hey everyone, Adam here from the Flipgrid team at Microsoft. Excited to welcome you to another episode of Global Learning Week. Today's episode is all about, you guessed it, Flipgrid. In particular, we're going to be talking about the brilliant ways you are and can leverage Flipgrid to engage your community in social learning. So your scholars, your families, fellow educators, and beyond all the time, whether that's in classrooms or while engaging in remote learning and more. My colleague Jordan Armont, the savvy educator, says, if you can think it, you can Flipgrid it. And by the end of this episode, you're gonna see how. We'll be talking with some of my teammates as well as fellow educators from around the globe. But before we get started, I just wanna take a moment to say thank you. On behalf of everyone at Team Flipgrid, thank you so much for what you do every day, moment to moment, to empower every voice. We are so inspired by and grateful for you, and just thrilled we get to work with you. You inspire us. You drive everything we do at Flipgrid, including today's episode. In particular, we will be talking about, hey Flipgrid, got any new tricks to show us? What are some ways to use Flipgrid during remote learning? I want to teach my students about media literacy. Any tips, Flipgrid? Hey Adam Short Shorts, tell me you're not wearing pants during quarantine. Well, at Flipgrid Fan 17, you know me well. But enough about me. The savvy educator has some advice for us. Jornay, over to you.
Thanks, Adam. Educators are always sharing their ideas, tips, and tricks on social media daily, including Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And our team at Flipgrid is always listening to continuously improve and update Flipgrid based upon those teacher ideas. And so today, I not only want to share what to do with Flipgrid, but why these tips and tricks are helpful and important. Let's go. Did you know you can screen record right inside of Flipgrid? This is great for creating instructional videos, narrating PowerPoint slideshows, having students make their mathematical thinking visible, or practicing reading fluency, or even have students give one another feedback. And as educators, you can use a screen recorder to make your subplans clear. The possibilities are truly limitless. All right, another for set it and forget it recording times. Now, the default recording length is 90 seconds, but educators can always adjust this time anywhere from 15 seconds all the way to 10 minutes. So set it for 15 seconds for elevator pitches or one-word projects, or 45 seconds for language learning assessments, or even 2 minutes for oral exam presentations, 5 minutes for short reports, or 10 minutes for read-alouds or longer experiments. And last, the Flipgrid browser extension. Accessing your grids have never been so easy. The Flipgrid extension for Chrome or Edge allows students to easily access their grids directly from the Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome browser. After downloading the extension, you will see the Flipgrid green plus button on the top right menu of your browser. To use, select the Flipgrid extension, enter in your Flip code, select the blue arrow, and voila, the grid will open in a tab on your browser. Here's a tip. You can use the keyboard shortcut Control-Shift-F to open the extension. Pretty neat, huh? Let us know if you try out any of these tricks by dropping in a note in the comments. Back to you, Adam.
Thank you so much, Jornay. Now I want to introduce you to an incredible educator who the team and I have been gushing about for some time, and I was so fortunate for the opportunity to reach out to this individual and learn more about the inspiring ideas we've seen on Twitter. Yuritsa is a high school social studies teacher in New York, and she has just fabulous insights for engaging scholars and families, and I'll let her tell you. Yuritsa?
Thanks, Adam. Hey guys, I am so excited to be here with you today to share my experiences with Flipgrid. I'm a U.S. history teacher in Brooklyn, New York. I teach at Research and Service High School, and I have gotten the opportunity to meet some of the most brilliant students who only want and desire to learn, to be given the opportunity to have fun with history. My students are the overage and undercredited population, which means they've spent a little bit more time in high school than the actual student. With my students being overage and undercredited, while everyone is at home from 8 to 3 learning and engaging in live instruction, my students are actually outside working. They are the ones who are packing your bags. They are the ones in Home Depot. They are the ones putting different products on the shelves. Those are my students. And so when I have the opportunity to do live instruction with some students, most of my students are outside actually earning money, trying to survive. And so Flipgrid has allowed me to actually create a different avenue so that my students can independently work on the projects and the activities that I have given. Prior to remote learning, I created different opportunities for students to partake in history. And these opportunities were simulations. So students would be able to bring history alive. I had projects where students would partake in a constitutional convention, so they would be representatives from New Jersey and New York and Connecticut. Then I had actually simulations where the kids would actually be in a speakeasy. So they were mobsters and they were flappers and they were cops. And it enhanced not only their ability to understand history, but just the fun they was having with history. Now, during remote learning, or I should say when it began, I actually thought that I was going to lose that benefit. I thought that I would lose having the opportunity to fully engage students who were told mostly all of their lives they were incapable of learning. Now, my students are the most brilliant, creative, critical thinkers you could ever dream of teaching. Yet, they are the most underserved, vulnerable population of students you would ever meet. But that does not mean that they're incapable of learning. It actually means that they are thrilled to learn. They want you to be able to create these opportunities for them to engage, to feel a part of, and most importantly, to feel worth it. And this is exactly what Flipgrid did for me. It allowed me to take those same simulations that I once gave students inside of the classroom, and it brought it to life. It actually brought it to their cell phone screens and the iPad screens and the laptop screens. And what I actually learned from this experience is that you don't make the situation take over how you teach. You take the situation and you enhance how you teach. Students notice when you've given up. And Flipgrid allowed me to show my students that I have yet to give up. We know history can be kind of like a boring subject. So let me introduce to you guys exactly what are some activities I've created that has shown an increase in student engagement. The first, what's called an Unsung Heroes Project. And so when you think project, probably in your mind, you're like, this is something long, this is something boring. The students were probably in front of their computer screens and they were just out of it. No, Flipgrid actually allowed me to give students a chance to create videos, to create comic book strips, and also to create movies. So with the Unsung Heroes Project, I asked students to actually research unsung historical figures. And what I've learned and what I've discovered is that students have a strong desire to see exactly what imprint their ancestors have left in history. And so this project did just that. It allowed students to present untold history in a way where it was so creative. Flipgrid has allowed me to give students not only the opportunity to choose what they're learning, but how their product is going to come out. And what I've learned is once you give students choice in education, of course, learning takes place. So a choice board activity that I created actually allowed students to choose between 6 different products. So it could be a comic book strip, it could be a movie trailer, it could be an actual movie, it could be a Google Docs, it could be a Google Slides, and it could be a Powtoon. And what the students would do is they would use this product and upload it to Flipgrid. Now, why is that important? Have you ever had peer collaboration in your class? Of course, right? We love the idea of students working with each other, students being able to give feedback to each other. Well, guess what? That's exactly what Flipgrid does. It enhances the way students can actually give each other feedback, receive feedback, and look at what each other is posting. So this is actually beneficial for all of us, for myself, for parents, and for students, because we may have students like my own who may feel like they don't want to be the first one done because they might be wrong. And so being able to see exemplars from their classmates or being able to see what their classmates have already posted actually gives them a sense of confidence in what else they're planning. Parent engagement has always been something that people find so difficult, when the reality is it is technically very easy to obtain. And the way you do that is by encouraging parents to do and learn the same skills you're asking their kids to do. So I did one assignment with parents, and that first assignment was just for them to post on Flipgrid how they were doing. And we might see that as something very small, but just think to yourself, how many times has a person just told you everything negative about your child and has never even asked you how you were doing as a parent? And so what I learned was a lot of parents were just so anxious to say how they were feeling that I knew from there, okay, I have to keep this going. And so the next week, I created what's called MCV's Talent Show. And it's just that. So parents were asked to put up a video of them dancing or of them singing. It could be them individually, with their family, by themselves. And the song that they chose had to describe how they were feeling. So I took it a step ahead of what I had did the first week. And now you see parents engaging with the learning and engaging with just letting me know how they're doing. But the reality is, I've taught the parents a skill that I also needed my kids to know, which was how to upload videos, how to access a website, how to write on white and blackboards. Guys, I literally just helped the parent become the teacher by learning and facilitating learning. So when we go back and we think about the different platforms that we've been introduced to, then we have to consider what's best for our students. For me, I know it's been Flipgrid. From day one, I was able to encourage my students to learn, not because they can graduate next month, not because they're overage and it's about time for them to get out of high school, but because they can partake in their learning, they can engage in their learning, and they can have fun in what they're learning. That is the basics. If you don't provide students with something fun, and what I mean by fun doesn't necessarily mean they have to laugh and giggle while they're doing it. It means they find a small part of themselves in what they're learning. That is fun, to discover some aspects about yourself that makes you unique. Flipgrid has allowed me to do just that. It has allowed me to enhance student learning. It has allowed me to include the parents in learning. And it has allowed me to meet my students right where they are, whether they are home, whether they are at work, or honestly, whether they just sleep, right? Because I honestly have to be honest, some of my students are asleep, which is why creating shorts is necessary. They have to be able to access instruction even when it isn't live. Students have to feel as if they're in front of a classroom, even when there's a screen that actually separates them from their teachers. Flipgrid has allowed me to do just that. Flipgrid has allowed me to provide different avenues for students to learn. It has allowed me to give students choice. It has allowed me to give parents choice and voice. And so, I don't know about you guys, but I'm having so much fun with Flipgrid. My students are having so much fun. I wish I can share these videos with you. I definitely can. Just let me know. But Adam, how are you? Are you working too hard?
Oh yeah, just getting my work from home setup complete. I think that this is the place. I think this is the setup. This is definitely the coziest I've been. Oh, hey, look what just popped up on the feed. Yes, as a matter of fact, Jornay, do you want to show the Flipgrid Disco Library? Oh, sorry, coworkers, Jornay, back to you.
Let's boogie on over to the Flipgrid Disco Library, a place where you can share your best ideas and find your next Flipgrid topic. Okay, so now we're in the Flipgrid Disco Library, and as you can see, there's over 20,000 topics that have been submitted by educators as well as partners for educators to explore and engage their students in learning. So let's check out one of the partners, the Met. Now, if you didn't know, the Met, or the Metropolitan Museum of Art, is one of the largest museums in the U.S., and they have decided to add some of their works of art that's on display right here in the Disco Library for your students to explore art history. As students are exploring these topics, they will be inspired to use their creativity. So let's check out a topic. Here's one called Rum Tum Beat a Drum. Now, this topic showcases a work of art from southern Philippine Islands. As you can see, this is a drum, and it really inspires students to use their creativity and create their own drums based on any type of materials that they can find within their homes. In addition to that, you will see that the Met has added additional resources for your students to discover, imagine, and also create. Next up, we are going to take a look at Wonderopolis. Now, Wonderopolis is that place where learning never ceases to exist, right? So let's check out some of the wonders that have been sparked by student questions and created by our awesome partner at Wonderopolis. So let's find one really cool. Here's one. Have you ever seen a red panda? So this topic really takes students on a journey to explore what is an endangered species. Students will be able to check out a video as well as read an article on Wonderopolis, and finally respond. What is your favorite endangered animal and why? And finally, our partner over at WE. Now, the WE organization truly empowers future leaders and change makers through social and emotional learning. You'll see here that they have so many topics that really stretch students' thinking about important ideas. So here's a topic called Nothing is Black and White, which really goes through explaining racism and also has students think about what can they do to create positive change. You'll also see that the WE has added lots of links for students to also learn and explore as they learn about this topic. So definitely check out the Disco Library. There's so much there for you, and we can't wait to see how you engage your students in learning.
Oh, hey, you caught me admiring the collection, something I've enjoyed doing while sheltering in, well, really all the time. Who am I kidding? Anyway, a number of you have asked about how to engage your scholars while experiencing remote learning. And I have the perfect example for you from an educator in Indonesia who has done not just this, but taken a step further to inspire fellow educators to do the same.
Hello, I am Gartati. I'm an English teacher at Junior High School Tublora. I'm teaching 7th and 9th grade. I started using Flipgrid in 2019. I created my own Flipgrid and shared with my students in my English class and my extracurricular classes. And when I asked my students to record their voices on Flipgrid, they were happy. They tried to perform on Flipgrid.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Juster Rebesa Panatjunianto. I come 70 class. In my opinion, we can read textbooks and make Flipgrids because Flipgrid is very useful for students. That is all for me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Sometimes it was very funny when I asked my students to share their voices and they asked me, "Ma'am, can I have a Flipgrid in group?" So I said yes, and they went to the school garden to get the beautiful background, and they were together, 3 or 4 girls sharing their voice together. One of the students who was very active told me that she got some replies from Japanese students and Japanese teachers. And Mom, how if I replied their question like this? Yes, I said that it is okay. And this last project I did with my students, one of my students sang a song, and then he explained what is the song about.
I return to the moon, let me play among the stars.
I still continue to try to ask my students to share everything via Flipgrid, because I know that they are genuine. They try to speak their mind, and everybody can see. And you know that when I replied them and give like, and then they are very happy. That's my experience in using Flipgrid at my school. Thank you.
Wow, incredible. I love how you're not only inspiring your scholars to share and amplify and connect with their peers, but everyone around Indonesia. Truly incredible. Thank you so much. And if you're just getting started with Flipgrid and you have questions, we have answers. And by we, I mean my two friends here with me. Well, not here, but here. Jess and Ann.
Hey! Hey everybody! Flipgrid is a video discussion platform that is 100% free.
Yeah, you can engage and empower every voice in your classroom or at home by recording and sharing those short, awesome videos together.
I personally loved using Flipgrid in my middle school math classroom.
And I loved using Flipgrid with the educators I was supporting in professional development experiences. And students love Flipgrid because it provides awesome creative ways for them to share, showcase, and celebrate their authentic voice for authentic audiences.
If you're just getting started with Flipgrid, we encourage you to attend one of our professional development sessions or access our Getting Started guide.
You can also check out our remote learning guide that provides multiple resources and tips and tricks for different age groups and content areas. You can even check out an awesome disco library playlist and resources that have been translated into various languages.
If you haven't tried Flipgrid yet, let us know when you're diving in. We're here to cheer you on. Back to you, Adam.
Thanks, Jess and Ann. I remember when I first learned about Flipgrid. Wow, my goodness. Flipgrid was so cool to learn about then, and how Flipgrid has changed and evolved. And I mean, thanks to your feedback, Flipgrid continues to get even better. And okay, well, enough with reminiscing. We have to get to the news. And when I'm thinking of news, and I think of discussing news with your scholars, an incredible educator who comes to mind is Andrew Fenstermaker, based in Iowa City, Iowa.
Thanks, Adam. Hey, everyone. As Adam mentioned, my name is Andrew Fenstermaker, and I'm currently the Instructional Technology Coordinator at the Iowa City Community School District. In addition to my role as an Instructional Technology Coordinator, I also get to wear the hat of a tech coach. Now, prior to those two different hats, I was also a fifth grade classroom teacher. As a fifth grade classroom teacher, my students, didn't necessarily have a love for writing per se, and my goal was to find ways to kind of highlight the voice of students and also amplify their writing skills at the same time. And that led to a project using Flipgrid, which we were really, asked students to kind of tap into their passions and really amplify their voice using a medium that they hadn't necessarily used before. And I wanted to show them the power of their voice itself. And while we're talking about that, let's actually jump in and take an actual look to see what this looked like for students. So you can see here on the screen, this is the actual slideshow that I shared with my students. And the purpose of the slideshow is to provide a scaffolded process for them to build their capacity with podcasting, as well as to basically break it into small chunks for them to see how their voice could truly spread beyond just the four walls of our classroom. So first off, my students need to know, what is this foreign word of podcasting? Like, what does this actually mean? So we gave them a quick definition of it. And then I also showed them a really quick explainer video that showed them in plain English, what does a podcast actually consist of and look like? And then we actually wanted to know, like, all right, what are we going to use to build these podcasts? And so we actually leveraged at that time a Chromebook, we used WeVideo, and then ultimately our final publishing platform was Flipgrid. And then when we jumped into kind of breaking those down into smaller chunks, we wanted to build some of their capacity with what does maybe a professional sounding podcast sound like. So the Listen, Learn, Lead podcast was actually one that me and a colleague actually attempted to create and put ourselves out there as educators. And then the EdTech Takeout is actually some local, basically a local area education agency that actually publishes a podcast. So we were using theirs as an example as well. But then I also showed them a couple 5th grade podcasts that were from the great World Wide Web. So these are some examples that I found out on the web because I didn't really have anything that I could actually show them that had been created in the past. And then from that point, it was really like, what do I actually have to share? Because sometimes students are a little bit naive, or maybe they're a little bit hesitant to actually share their voice. So we're really trying to find out, what's obvious to them might be amazing to others. So we really wanted to tap into their passions. And so we gave them this light bulb slide for them to basically replace where it says type idea with any of their ideas that they had about the podcasting process. So really, what are they passionate about? Type out all the ideas that you had. And then from there, you can see these are some of the ideas that students came up with. So was it whether they are food or school or pets or sports, those are the things that those students really started to generate as ideas. And then from their list of ideas, we wanted them to see what is a theme that emerged from those list of ideas. So you can see there they had music or maybe sports was an emerging theme. That was just, again, to help them organize their thinking as they were going to share. And so then after they had identified what might be a potential topic, what were their goals? Did they want to persuade someone? Did they want to give advice or storytelling? So we really wanted them to define their purpose of sharing their voice. After they've defined their purpose, we really kind of put this little math formula together of, what's your theme, what's your purpose, and then think about your topics. Let's build your brand out. So let's see how you can advertise yourself and your voice and actually build a brand behind that. And then this actually led to, all right, let's find out what is your idea for a name. And so at this point, they, again, repeated that same process where they listed the different ideas of potential podcast names. And then they actually got some input from peers. So we were trying to tap into a little bit of the design thinking process where we had to check with our end users and find out what are our end users really passionate about hearing. And so from there, they interviewed a few other people, classmates, across the school, friends outside of school, what would be their suggestion for the winning title. And then after identifying the winning title, this allowed us to design a logo for their podcast. And again, we tapped into what are some of the icons that originally come to mind when you think about that. And then I also gave them an article about colors to see, what kind of colors get a certain reaction from people. So after them exploring a little bit about colors and icons that came to mind, they had either Canva to use or Google Draw. And so I gave them those two choices to narrow down the process for the design. And then they went in and used some of these free to use icons or clip art as they designed their logos. And you can see here's just a quick snapshot of what some of the students actually created. So really, it blew me away what students were able to create using simple tools, tapping into what they were truly passionate about. And then after them building their logo, we wanted them to come up with slogans. So we shared some real world slogans and then asked them to think about their own podcast and what might be some slogans. So again, to keep it very familiar with what we had previously done, we had them tap into that idea generation light bulb again. And then we also had them repeat the same process of seeking input from peers. And then you can see here some examples of those students' ideas that listed out on the screen. So loading content, talking in sixth gear was all about cars. The loading content was about video games. So lots of creative ideas from the students. And then at that point, we wanted them to use WeVideo and come up with an intro jam. So most podcasts have some kind of an intro lingo or an intro tune. So we talked about building that within WeVideo. They had some resources that they could use to create that intro. And then we also gave them a video that showed them how to do the process. And then really we had them start to use this bracket to kind of narrow down what are those ideas that I have that I want to create an episode about. And then at that point, we had them create a short script. And then based on that little script, they would then go into WeVideo, record their intro jam, record their actual audio. They would add their image back behind their video creation, record their script, as you can see on the screen. And then after they were all done, they were able to then take this podcast itself and actually upload it to Flipgrid, as you can see there, noted in the picture itself. This project really provided a unique lens into the passions of my students. Their voices and the messages that they shared allowed me to see some unique sides of students, whether it's their passions or interests or, even those people that they interviewed. This project opened up the doors to allow me to build relationships in ways that I never would have been able to do prior to this project.
Today, on episode 2, we are going to be talking about our favorite video game consoles.
Welcome to episode 1 of Let's Cookie. Today we're going to be making brownies.
Today we're going to be talking about the latest trends of clothes. On Mondays I would wear joggers or khaki joggers.
My third favorite game is a game called Sandbox.
One of the powerful pieces that continues to kind of melt my heart a little bit every time I share this project is I had a student in my class named Sophie, and one of the things she did is on the last day of school's out, she went home after that day of school and actually recorded another episode, which was her final episode. And in that episode, her main goal was to just say thank you. She was super excited and happy about this project, but she wanted just to send one final message of thanks for me allowing her to participate in this project.
Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Sports with Soph. Today I'm not going to do anything. I know this sounds weird, but that's because this is the last episode of Sports with Soph. So the school year is come to an end. The last day of school is already over, so I decided I'd make this short video of how much I've enjoyed podcasting. It was such a good experience. Thank you to my teacher, Mr. Fenstermaker.
And the one thing that continues to warm my heart about it is never before had I created a project in my classroom so that students wanted to go on well past the school year and continue to build and elaborate on their experience that they had in the classroom. So it shows when we tap into students' passions and interests and empower them to be the leaders in the classroom, it's amazing what they can accomplish. This lesson really seemed to kind of take on a life of its own. What I did hear is that some of my former students might have left me some ratings. Let's check it out and see what they have to say.
Hi, Mr. Fenstermaker.
Hi, Mr. Fenstermaker.
We know that the more popular podcasts get better star ratings in the App Store.
So we thought we would give your podcast project a star rating for the other 5th graders.
Not that the kids have a choice and to do the project, we wanted to give them a taste of what the project would be like.
So I would rate the podcast project a 4.5 out of 5 because I thought it was really fun how we got to listen to other classmates' projects and we got to choose our own idea, but I think there's always room for improvement.
I would rate this project a 4.5 out of 5 because it was really fun and we got to talk with our friends a lot, but it was kind of hard at the beginning to get used to all the mechanical stuff.
Overall, I thought the project was really fun, and thanks to Mr. Fenstermaker, now I know how to podcast.
Thanks, Mr. Fenstermaker. Have a great summer, everybody.
That's an awesome surprise that, they gave me a 4.5 out of 5. I'll take that. In all honesty, I really appreciate you taking the time, allowing me to share this project with you. I would love for you to connect and share if you tackle this project on your own. I would love to hear your celebrations, the takeaways that you have. You can shoot me a message here on Flipgrid. You can also reach out to me on Twitter. It's at @A_Fenstermaker. Again, thank you so much for allowing me to share this project and hearing my students' voices throughout this time.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I love that. I love the idea of your scholars not only getting the opportunity to share what they're passionate about, but figure out a way to make that enticing and entertaining and intriguing to their peers and beyond. So cool. So cool. Thank you so much for creating that project and for sharing. And speaking of sharing student projects and sharing this project, let's talk about how we can evaluate news, right? How we can take other elements shared by colleagues and peers around the world and evaluate news, evaluate journalism, and all the things that attach to that. Fortunately, Flipgrid and Microsoft Education had this really cool opportunity to partner with BBC Learning to produce a 10-episode series discussing exactly this. And so here's a little bit more.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Kara from BBC Studios, and we're so excited about this new BBC series created exclusively for Microsoft Education and Flipgrid. It's a 10-episode series, each consisting of 50 minutes of associated instructional content. With every episode, there are accompanying lesson plans and ready-to-use Flipgrid discussion prompts. The series covers timely, important subjects around media literacy, including what is news, evaluating media, verifying sources, sharing content, and more. All the lessons can be conducted remotely and are standards aligned for social studies, English language arts, and media literacy. Check it out.
Thank you, Kara. And hi everyone, my name is Lolly Anderson and I'm a marketing manager at Microsoft based in Kirkland, Washington. Now, you may be wondering, where do I find the BBC My World lessons? And so I'm going to take you through a brief demo of how you can access these 10 free lesson plans. So let's get started. First, you start by going to aka.ms/BBC My World. This takes us to our Microsoft Educator community, and here you will see the 10 lessons that Kara mentioned earlier. Note the subject area is linked, and there is a brief description for each lesson. Now, let's say I'm a social studies teacher and my class is on lesson 3, which details how do journalists verify news. We just click on the lesson and we're taken to the lesson page. You'll notice a description and a brief video for BBC to accompany each lesson. And on the right-hand navigation, you'll notice quick links to free tools like Office 365, Teams, and Flipgrid, which I'll show a bit more in a moment. But before we do that, let's take a look at what's inside Lesson Plan 3, linked right here at the top. It's worth noting that the lessons are standards aligned just for the classroom. And in addition to helping students become strong consumers of news, the lessons include modules to help foster critical thinking, reasoning, communication, and collaboration skills. The program is designed for middle school students ages 11 through 14. However, we included sections to support students ages 6 through 11 and 14 through 19. You can see each lesson is about 45 to 60 minutes long, and we've also included a suggested structure and procedural tips for administering the lesson. Here is the Extend and Connect section, which provides content for elementary and high school students, as I mentioned earlier. Also, included in the lesson are student handouts, like this informational article. And here's a collaboration activity and a guided practice to apply their knowledge. And then closing it with an assessment to test what they've learned. So now let's head back to the lesson page. And in addition to the lesson plan, another great way to engage students is with Flipgrid. This is another amazing free resource that's available to you and your students. Simply click on the Flipgrid link and you will be taken to Lesson Plan 3 in the My World Disco library. Notice the 4 discussion prompts. They're already built in specific to the lesson plan. This is where the magic happens. You watch these lessons with the students, have them reflect in Flipgrid, and bonus, it's fun. So, learning to navigate our media environment has never been more challenging. And we hope you take the time to review the lessons and see if it will be a good fit for your classroom. Not to mention a tremendous resource in this time of remote and blended learning. So thank you for your time and enjoy.
Wow, what an amazing day. Thank you all so much for joining us today on Global Learning Week, and a huge shout out to today's presenters. We had so much fun with you all, and we just want to once again thank you so much for just the renowned, fantastic, brilliant, wonderful, exciting, inspiring, I'm tripping on my words, there are not enough words for us to express our gratitude for you and the truly renowned ways you engage, empower, amplify, and connect your communities. Thank you so much. Tune in this time tomorrow for a discussion on problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity, and we will see you all on Monday. What's Monday? The biggest annual education celebration on the planet, featuring you!
Special guests!
and surprises, announcements, secrets, updates, new features, a DJ. Flipgrid Live. Yeah, I'm ready. Woo!
June 29.
7 p.m. Central. Yeah! All right, now we just have to hold this pose till Monday. See you June 29th, 7 p.m. Central.